Okay, we are supposed to see what's going on here. So how about some intro music here? Okay.
He took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America. By some, he's been called controversial.
I'll keep my freedom. I'll keep my guns. Try to keep my money and my religion too.
Now, keep in mind that some of my guests have been approached by Homeland Security or FBI saying, why are you going on the Clay Douglas show?
My message to those guys, if they're listening this morning, is go get a cup of coffee. Maybe you'll learn something.
We both took the same oath, to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't recall there being an expiration date on that.
I'm gonna keep my big B8, keep my friends the same, keep the government out of my business, and y'all can keep the change.
He is the free American, Clay Douglas.
We know what we need, we know who to blame.
Catch the Free American Hour, weekdays at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern.
I'll keep the USA and y'all can keep the change.
For the podcast and more details, visit www.freeamerican.com or catch the podcast by phone by calling 832-999-8621.
All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Free American. I'm your host, I'm Clay Douglas, and I'm happy to introduce my guest today, Eli James, co-author of A Mystery Babylon, The New World Order Unveiled. How are you, Eli?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I wish I could say the same for the world.
Well,
especially Texas.
Especially Texas.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you and Jade Helm. Yeah, you're right in the. You picked the perfect place to move to, Clay. You're right in the heart of Jade Helm territory.
I have been in the mayor's office. I've been to the city council meeting. The mayor even told me, yeah, I got a bunch of stuff on that paperwork. I'll be glad to share that with you. And I said, well, I'm just trying to do what the governor suggested we do, keep an eye on Jade Helm.
Right.
Now,
yeah,
I don't know, Eli, I have my suspicions about coincidence. and you know,
I knew you were coming. So
I've also, I'm not exactly, a preacher and a real religious, but I also believe that burning bushes are passé and that God's alive and well and uses the internet today.
Mm-hmm. He provided the internet for us because if we didn't have it, there's no way we'd get the truth out. We'd have to rely on Jews' papers and Jews' media, right? So
that's right.
Praise Yahweh, that's ammunition. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the first item I'd like to talk about, just kind of briefly, is I rarely watch mainstream news anymore, but I just happen to be, because I'm a Blackhawks fan, I live in Chicago, and the Blackhawks are back in the finals again, that they happened to flash a story about the TSA. And in fact, that they ran some kind of test, some anonymous test, and 67 out of 70 TSA agents failed the test. They actually smuggled some sort of weapon right past the TSA agents. And to give you an idea of how good these people are, 67 out of 70 failed.
Well, obviously they weren't using the right people. If they had used grandmothers and small children, they would have passed with flying colors.
Right, yeah. But it just proves that the whole thing it's a total hoax. I mean, it's the biggest hoax going right now because it's based on 9/11 being carried out by Arabs with box cutters, right? And planes flown by pilots who couldn't even fly a twin-engine Cessna. This is, the pretext for TSA, which is nothing but a bureaucratic nightmare created to give us the illusion that there is a security threat. The only security threat in the world today is the state of Israel and its affiliated organizations such as the ADL, APAC, the United Nations, which is created by the Rothschilds, etc., etc. It's all bogus. A total waste of taxpayers' money and an enormous waste of our time. And how many terrorists have they caught? Has TSA caught since 9/11?
It's pretty sure that I nailed it with probably one of the other reasons they tried to kill me, because I filmed the first Homeland Security meeting where they pretty much told us about Jade Helm. I got that film's available at shop.freeamerican.com. And, we're in for a long war. It's going to be longer than the Cold War. And in case of a single outbreak of smallpox in a major metropolitan area, we'll need 400,000 well-armed, well-trained, organized, disciplined troops to control the American people, because some of them just won't follow orders. In other words, some of us won't line up on the Walmart parking lot.
Aren't these vaccinations supposed to be effective?
Well, let's see, the smallpox has been eradicated in the United States for 100 years.
Yeah,
since the Jews tried to kill off the Indians to get the land.
Right.
They had to make room. They had to get rid of those Indians because they just wouldn't work, so the Jews could bring in the black slaves from every ship that brought slaves in was owned by Jews, wasn't it?
Right. Hey, Clay, every time you use the word Jew, you get a demerit. The ADL does not like it when you use the word Jew, especially in a negative sense. So watch your language. Watch your language.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Oh, yeah.
It's politically incorrect language. We're not supposed to talk about that. But the reason we're doing today's show is, of course, Jade Helm. And I don't know, you've probably seen the video of a Jade Helm official addressing, I believe, is in Big Spring, Texas.
Big Spring. I've got that up on my Facebook site. I put that up. And I also, I had a friend down there in Austin that used to say, well, Clay, we've just got to reach out to the good Jews. And I said, well, if I knew any, I would certainly do that. But that's...
right.
Just not many Benjamin Friedmans around anymore,
Yeah, right. There are very, very few of those. Myron Fagan, he's the one who exposed the Hollywood Jews, the Hollywood Jew communists, and the Illuminati. Very, very few of those types of Jews. You can count them on one hand, the good Jews. Okay, the rest of them, for whatever reason, are totally in sync with the Jewish, how should I put it, animus against the non-Jewish world. Okay, the rabbis train all Jews to hate non-Jews and make them believe that all non-Jews are out to get the little Jew, right? So therefore, they have to own the banks, they have to infiltrate the government, they have to control every aspect of our government, and then at the same time they claim they're persecuted, even though they're in charge of everything, right? The poor persecuted Jew, that's the biggest myth in the world. But let's get to Jade Helm. And this is from Before It's News. It's a pretty good website. In fact, my security program is telling me this website has potentially dangerous and suspicious content, right? as all patriotic websites typically do, they're flagged for potentially dangerous and suspicious stuff. Okay, but the headline here is Jade Helm official reveals true purposes of JH-15. And this is by Dave Hodges, who's, I believe, based in Florida, and most of his stuff seems to be pretty good. And I guess he's got his own radio show called The Common Sense Show. Okay. And here he's got a photograph of a bunch of camouflage fatigue dressed operatives, whether they're actually U.S. military or whether they're, it can't be militia, because militia is civilians. Okay, most people don't realize that the militia is an all-volunteer force it's almost like the posse in wartime, okay, when the country's being invaded. So you can't get people to volunteer to go overseas. You know, the government has to pay for that, and all that's unconstitutional. Our Constitution does not provide for shipping our troops overseas. It only provides for national defense, right? And so George Bush, Bill Clinton, now Barack Obama have all created pretexts for sending our troops overseas to fight against countries who have never threatened us in any way, shape, or form. But they do oppose an obstacle to the expansion of the Israeli state. You know, that's the only reason why our troops, and they're really not even our troops, now they're UN troops. And this Jade Helm thing, I believe, is being orchestrated from the UN. Okay, it's not just.
That would explain all of the UN vehicles on trains coming across the country.
Right. Yeah, I mean, because you see, the whole point, Clay, is to disarm America, and because the U.S. Constitution prevents the government from seizing our guns, they're using the treaty clause, you know, which is that if we have a treaty with the UN, now what's the UN? The UN is nothing but an economic vehicle of the Rothschilds. It was created by the Rothschilds, and one of the first things the UN did was to create the Israeli state. So all of this is illegitimate. The UN is not a legitimate organization, and neither is the Israeli state a legitimate country. They stole that country from the Palestinians, and the UN is a quasi-government operation, and it doesn't represent nations. It represents the business operations of the Rothschild banking family. So what we've got here is the only way they can see to disarm Americans is by using this UN treaty by which the UN plans to disarm us. Okay, this way our Congress critters can disclaim responsibility and say, oh, no, well, it's not our fault, it's the treaty, we have to live by the treaty. Okay, well, the treaty is null and void, and any treaty that we make that violates the Constitution is null and void. Okay, so any treaty we have with the United Nations is ipso facto null and void, okay, because it violates the Constitution. Anyway, here is what Mr. Hodges has to say. Finally, we are getting some much-needed honesty with regard to the true nature of Jade Helm. The information is not overtly forthcoming, but in this clumsily made presentation to local Texas officials, one can pretty much ascertain the true nature of the drill. That is, if one can get around the obvious lies being told to the public by this Jade Helm official. And of course, one of the main lies is it's just an exercise, okay? And so part of this exercise is to have agents dressed in civilian clothing. My understanding, Clay, is they're going to have live ammunition, the ones who are dressed in full military gear. This is a radical type of exercise. And going back to the exercise, it was about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago in, I believe it was Miami, Florida, where around 2 a.m. they had just such an exercise, and unannounced. All of a sudden there's black helicopters flying through the sky, there's soldiers in full military gear running around the streets of Miami, and scaring the hell out of locals, right? So if some of these operatives are basically civilian clothed operatives, how do you know if this person isn't going to attack you, or if they got live ammunition? How do you know somebody isn't going to accidentally kill somebody? This is serious stuff, and it's unprecedented. The size and the scale of Jade Helm is unprecedented. We have at least 5 states involved, from Texas to California.
9 states is what they outlined, but it's more than that. It's actually, and it may be Dave Hodges that pointed this out, it's almost, they have added Louisiana, they've added Mississippi, and Florida. So they have basically cut America off from the coast.
Yeah, the southern half.
The southern half.
Yes.
Shades of the Civil War, huh?
There you go. There you go.
Now let me interrupt you for just a second to tell people and tell you that this is a little bit more serious than Jade Helm, because on the eve of Jade Helm, now, you know, Eli, I've always told people, anytime a communist or fascist regime, totalitarian regime takes over, they go after 3 classes of people in order. They go after the farmers first, because they don't want you to be able to feed yourself or grow hemp and make money out of it. They second, they go after the intelligentsia. That'd be the people like you and I that study this and know what they're doing. And third, they go after the veterans and the law enforcement and the militias that might pose a threat or armed resistance. Now, I kind of threw that in because there is one group out there that I've been a member of for over 50 years, or at least 50 years. And frankly, I think they're scared to death of us because they've tried to demonize us for as long as I've been alive. And that's the bikers. And in Waco 2, the second Waco, they had a meeting, and if I hadn't gone to Big Spring, I would have been at that meeting. The 2 clubs met, and one of those clubs, my first club was the Ghost Riders out of Eunice, Texas, and when Texas passed a helmet law, I don't wear a helmet and won't wear a helmet unless I happen to have to go through California. But the Banditos and the another club here, actually there was half a dozen clubs, had a meeting in Waco, and a fight broke out in they say in a bathroom. They walked outside, everybody went outside to see who would win the fight, and they walked into a killing field. 9 bikers were murdered. 9 bikers were murdered
by police officers.
All by police. They were the bikers. The media pledged this as a biker war. As a war between 2 clubs, and you know, and so they arrested 170 people and charged them with put $1 million bond on it, and the arrest warrants were issued by a justice of the peace, not a judge.
Okay.
And on the eve of Jade Helm, I think that ought to scare the life out of every straight American, because the bikers, like the militia, yeah, we're usually armed. Yeah, we don't take any shit off of nobody, and but we're just people. We're just Americans. They're, you know, your biker may live next door to you. He might be a judge. He might be a lawyer. And matter of fact, I talked for hours yesterday with a lawyer who happens to be a biker in Miami.
Okay.
So I don't know. That just scared life out of everybody. I've been to hundreds of these meetings, and nobody. There's never been any problems with it. The police walk among us, hang out with us, chat with us, and
yeah. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that this Waco affair was a setup, because ordinarily the police don't come out en masse. This is this establishment, Twin Peaks, has had these biker meetings, my understanding is, for years. And so this is the first time that the police have cased the joint out. And it was the police who did all the killing. Okay?
yes,
It wasn't bikers killing each other. It was the police killing the bikers. From my understanding, only one biker got a shot off.
and we don't
And
even know. I suspect if any bikers fired a shot, it was some of the undercover agents they had, and that he probably shot one shot into the air, and that gave him the excuse to open up on these bikers.
Right. Exactly. So this is really, we should treat this as a kind of Kent State action on the part of the government. And I agree with you, it's part of Jade Helm. It's a foretaste of Jade Helm, which is going to, like I said, it's part of the United Nations operation to disarm Americans because the government has been unable to repeal the Second Amendment. Okay? So all Americans who believe in self-defense should be aware that this is most likely what Jade Helm is all about. And I think if you can do this to bikers who are ordinarily well prepared, but I don't think bikers would expect to be attacked by the police as they exit, a bar. That's probably the last thing on their minds. So they're really caught by surprise. It's hard to say, whether these police were instructed to do this. In any case, they staked the place out. There's no doubt about that, because the place was crawling with police before the shooting started. Okay. Usually
They just weren't allowed inside, and I can tell you, I've been in a lot of bars and a lot of meetings. This was a Council of Clubs meeting. We don't carry guns into the clubs. We don't carry guns into the bars, and we don't threaten police.
Yeah.
And we don't even get drunk in the bars because we're going to go out and get on our motorcycles and ride away.
Right. Yeah, and you don't want to get busted for DUI, right?
Right.
So, yeah, and I think one of the clubs was actually a Christian biker club. So the Jews News is portraying this event as a bunch of rowdy bikers, which is not necessarily the case, right? I don't think the Hells Angels were represented, or the Outlaws, biker clubs that are noted for violence. I don't think any of these biker clubs were noted for violence. You'd be more familiar with that aspect than I am.
Well,
Okay.
my first club when I was in Texas was the Ghost Riders, and when I left Texas to go to Arizona and join the Dirty Dozen there, my club became and was merged with the Banditos. And it just so happens that and I'm sure anybody listening to my show knows that I got busted in Texas for marijuana back when it was a 99-year potential sentence. And the way they did, the lawyers all set that up so that they could plea bargain. Hey, boy, if you go for a jury here, you could get 99 years, but I got you 7. I got you 7 if you take this plea bargain.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's pretty obvious that the marijuana laws were created to keep white people under control, because the white people get the longest sentences, whereas blacks, they have very short sentences for murder. A white person will go to jail for marijuana and serve more time than a black person will for murder.
That's absolutely true, because I knew some of those people. I knew some people in a jail, and one of them, by the way, was Mother Dawn Chambers, the president of the Bandidos. And there were people in there for murder that I had more time than they did.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's obviously it's a law created to control white people, just as the there's that law that was created supposedly to combat organized crime, but that also has been used to incarcerate white people for extended periods of time, like anti-abortion demonstrators. Okay, these laws are passed on false pretext, just like the Patriot Act, right? It's really the Anti-Patriot Act. Okay, so the enemy is very clever in how it uses words to constantly fool people. So Jade Helm, now here's what Jade Helm stands for. Joint Assistant for Development and Execution. What kind of executing people or executing the development? Joint Assistant for Development and Execution, along with homeland eradication of local militants.
Militant. Let's see. I think you could kind of lump bikers and militia into that, couldn't you?
There you go. Local militants. Now, what is a militant? Now, ordinarily, a militant is someone who goes out, conducting military-style activities, and harassing people and doing stuff with guns and other weapons, right? But our Second Amendment believers, are they militants? Would that be any connection between a militant and an ordinary citizen who has Second Amendment rights?
Well, I trained the so-called militia, which just a group of people from Wake Up America in Albuquerque. I trained at the NRA range. I brought a professional in to train. My two sons, teenage sons, that were with us. It just so happened that they outshot all of the ex-vets and ex-cops that attended.
Right. And yeah, so I have a feeling, see, this is, and of course the military knows this, the ADL knows this, APAC knows this, that many of our legally armed private citizens are really good shots. And they don't want their stormtroopers, and that's what these people are, stormtroopers, government stormtroopers, to face return fire from people who are really good shots, who can nail you between your chin and your flak jacket, right? And so they don't want this kind of return fire to overwhelm their stormtroopers, so they want to come in and disarm people first. Okay, so this is what's going on. Now, this is, here again, Joint Assistant for Development and Execution, JADE, along with homeland eradication of local militants. It doesn't say militias. It says militants. But I think we can read between the words here. Okay.
Eradication. I mean, let's read between that word. Eradicate. They want to eradicate militants. This is what they did in Waco.
That's right. Well, actually, now again, that's falsely defining the people at Waco. David Koresh. They weren't militants. They were simply armed citizens. And even David Koresh, he went into town constantly. I don't know if he carried his weapon into town. I don't think he did.
Yeah, he was
but
jogging.
There's no way. Yeah. But he was not a militant in any way, shape, or form. Okay? So, but if you're a threat to homeland sabotage, then they can designate you, with false labeling, as they always do. And anybody who criticizes the Jews is automatically an anti-Semite and a terrorist. Okay, so since we have a totally corrupt government run by the ZOG, the Zionist occupation government, they choose to label people with jargon, which makes the public think that we're evil.
That's right.
Okay, no.
Yeah, that's not a hunting weapon. That's not a hunting rifle. That's an assault weapon. And by the way, folks, for Crusade Radio, who I just got up, wasn't able to connect at the top of the hour. My guest is Eli James, co-author of Mystery Babylon and the author of his own books. You want to put a plug in for that? Your book?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anybody? Well, our book really explains the powers behind the scenes, the corrupt and sabotage powers behind the scenes that are actually destroying America in the name of Homeland Security. And there's nothing these people won't do to destroy America. But at the same time, they don't want to destroy the infrastructure. They want the infrastructure to remain in place, but they want to disarm the citizens. And they want the citizens to be like the slaves of the Soviet Union. Okay? And our book discusses the powers behind the scenes. And Clay, I think our book is more true today than when we put it together. I think it was, 2004, 2005?
Yes.
It's more relevant today than it was when we published it.
Yes, and still is accurate. We've got the history of the Rothschilds and 2,000 years of Jewish manipulation that a Jewish historian, Benjamin Friedman, he suggested that the Jews were responsible for the greatest hoax in history. This is a Jewish historian. It's in the first issue of the Free American, which is available for free up on, the restored issue after they tried to kill me. And he says that this is the greatest hoax in history. The Jews are trying to convince Christians that somehow they were related to Jesus Christ when they really, as Friedman put it, they're so-called Jews from Khazaria, which you may know as the Ukraine now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly part of it.
And by the way, when this book came out, when our book came out, I took it to the biker bars because I had been publishing Arizona's Thunder Riders magazine. I had Arizona Thunder Riders website up, and somehow a rumor got started that I put this book out to raise money for a snitch named Huevos.
Okay.
Don't know any snitch named Huevos. Don't even like Huevos Rancheros. Didn't do that. And
is that
yet,
a common surname? Huevos? Eggs? Mr. Eggs. How are you, Mr. Eggs? Okay. Senor Huevos.
Let me also add this real quick, and I'll put this up on the website, and we'll talk about it more on the next issue. There's an article put out by a Jew by the name of Gilad Osman, and I'm not sure that he did this. I'm not sure that he wrote this, but he does say that this letter was, according to my informers, this letter was written by Rebecca Wilkmerson of JVP's, the Jewish Voice for Peace, and it wasn't intended to be publicized after all.
Mm-hmm.
Dear, and this is a letter she sent, this Rebecca Wilkmerson, Jewish Voice of Peace, she sent to Allison Weir. You know who Allison Weir is?
Yes.
One of the
anti-Zionists.
Right, the pro-Palestinian spokesperson.
Mm-hmm.
They said, Ms. Weir, the Jewish Voice for Peace has chosen not to work with you because our central tenet is opposed to racism in all its forms, and you have repeatedly chosen to associate yourself with people who advocate for racism. You've been a repeat guest of white supremacist Clay Douglas on his hate radio show, The Free American. Clay Douglas is concerned primarily with the survival of the white race and sees malign Jewish influence everywhere. His racist, anti-Jewish, anti-gay rhetoric can be found across the front pages of his multiple websites. In the course of your appearance with Clay Douglas, on August 25th, 2010, for example, you were silent when Douglas invoked the protocols of the elders of Zion and engaged in a racial diatribe against Jews. Your repeated appearance on the show on April 23rd and August 25th, 2010, February 9th and May 18th, 2011 show you knew his extremist views and chose to continue the association. Oh my God.
They got you pegged, Clay. They got you figured out.
Is that why I'm blocked in libraries? Is that why the Free Americans blocked in libraries and Intel and Intuit and Office Depot?
Right. But how is erecting a 40-foot wall between Jews and Palestinians not racist? How is executing Palestinians with impunity not racist? So the ADL uses this word racist and should look in the mirror, because they're the most racist in the world, and they're full of hate. Hate and racism, that's Judaism. Those two words go together. Hate and racism equals Judaism. Okay, but let me. I got a few more minutes left because I have to leave early.
Go ahead.
Just a couple of sentences here. With 4 mysterious explosions having struck 3 different states linked to Jade Helm 15 within the last 24 hours, I'm not sure what the date is of this article, as shared by Investment Watch blog, we're asked to remember gray terror warnings given by Russian defector Viktor Suvorov, who stated a series of large and small terrorist operations designed to divert the attention of an enemy's army and police forces to a large number of different targets would occur to weaken an enemy's morale and create an atmosphere of fear, suspicion, and uncertainty. Well, who's the enemy? Who's the enemy? Are they expecting an invasion? Why aren't they doing anything about the invasion of the Mexican drug cartels? Why are they arming the Mexican drug cartels to cross the border and attack American citizens?
Our own government.
Our own government's doing this. So are they creating the enemy that we're supposed to be afraid of?
Isn't that exactly what they did with the Jews from beyond the Pale, from the Pale settlement? Right. They inflamed them and turned them loose on the white Russian Christians and went on to murder 60 million.
Right. That's right. He asks, are these explosions linked to recent Patriots' Day warnings with the approaching dates of April 19th and 20th anniversaries of the Columbine Massacre, Oklahoma City, Waco, etc., and the Boston Marathon? Are these all of these events are staged by the government, every last one of them?
And they're going to kill a Ukrainian. They're going to kill a Ukrainian teenager who actually, I never saw any proof other than somebody's statement that he was involved. They're going to execute him for all the people killed, I guess, at the Boston Marathon. And I frankly don't think anybody was killed at the marathon any more than the children were killed at Sandy Hook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we have all of these staged events where the government, and you know as well as I do, that the real purpose of all of these mass killings, that most of them happen at schools or private institutions, or some in post offices, okay, usually committed by some lone nut. Well, what they're not telling us about these events is the vast majority of these killers are on some sort of antidepressant, Okay.
Pharmaceutical,
If
big
not
pharma,
100%
yes.
out there. Yeah. And they're having psychotic reactions, and then some of them are, in fact, what's the term, Manchurian candidates, people who've been set up by the government, as was the case for the first attack on the Twin Towers in 1993, where the FBI provided all the explosives to a quote-unquote Arab terrorist who fortunately carried a wire and recorded his conversations with the FBI, so he was acquitted. There was actually that explosion was set off by the FBI. The whole thing was planned by the FBI. So this is the type of government we're dealing with, folks. You better wake up and realize that your government is your worst enemy, because it's totally controlled by internationalist Jews who care absolutely nothing about America and the U.S. Constitution. But they do care about the UN Charter, which is their pet project. In other words, global dictatorship.
Yes, and
go ahead.
I've got something up by Alexander Solzhenitsyn on my website, and I urge you guys to go to freeamerican.com and read it. He talks about it wasn't Russians that were killing us, it was the Jews.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Solzhenitsyn's long-suppressed book, 200 Years Together, is still in the process of being translated. It's almost completely translated. And in that book, he's talking about 200 years together with the Jews and how the Jews have oppressed the Russian people and systematically genocided 66 million Russians, and it was Jews who did this. Okay, it wasn't just communists, it was Jewish Bolsheviks who did this, with Jewish personnel doing the actual killing. And of course, we never hear anything about the 66 million Russians. All we ever hear about is the supposed 6 million Jews. And we never hear anything about the 100 million of Europeans who died in World Wars I and II. All we hear about is 6 million Jews, okay? And the displaced people and the rape and murder and Eisenhower's death camps, where up to 2 million Germans were starved to death after World War II by Eisenhower. Nothing in the mainstream media about these terrorist activities by Jews. By the way, Eisenhower is a Jew himself.
That terrible Polish Jew, Swedish Jew, and that was in his yearbook.
That's right. That's right. And his classmates at the West Point called him that Swedish Jew. Right? I think they had an expletive in there, too. Right? Anyway, the official Tom Meade, the Jade Helm official Tom Meade, senior non-commissioned officer from Army Special Forces, retired, is now working as a private military contractor, and he recently briefed local officials in Big Spring, Texas, as to the purposes and scope of the Jade Helm exercise. Now here, this is a very disturbing development. We have we have the corporatization of the military. Okay, this has been ongoing since the Vietnam War. We're talking about mercenaries here, Clay. These people are mercenaries. They are guns for hire. They're not, and they're working now with official military, FBI, local police. So you have government employees now mixing with corporate employees, and it's really the private corporations here that are running the show. Okay, so we have a mercenary force called Jade Helm, which has no allegiance to the U.S. Constitution. These people don't swear, and most military people, I don't know if they still do, but when I was in the military, we had to take an oath to the U.S. Constitution. We also had to take an oath against communism. They dropped that oath against communism sometime in the mid-'80s, which explains why we've got a communist government today. But what we're dealing with here is a corporate, internationalist corporate setup called Jade Helm, and that's why it's so anti-constitutional. So the American people better wake up and be prepared to fight back, because the one thing that enslaved Russia, the Bolsheviks enslaved Russia because the peasants were unarmed and were easy to herd into camps and starve to death and simply plain old shoot in the head and get rid of. Okay? As long as we have our guns to defend ourselves, the internationalists have got a problem. So it's all I'm here to say is, don't let them take your guns away, and don't believe these people. They're your enemy. There's nothing good about Jade Helm. The only purpose it could possibly have is to determine how easy or uneasy it is to disarm the American people. That's the purpose of Jade Helm.
And they just disarmed 170 Americans in Waco. And by the way, that quote I've got from Alexander Solzhenitsyn says, "You must understand the leading Bolsheviks who took over Russia were not Russians. They hated Russians. They hated Christians. Driven by ethnic hatred, they tortured and slaughtered millions of Russians without a shred of human remorse. It cannot be overstated. Bolshevism committed the greatest human slaughter of all time. The fact that most of the world is ignorant and uncaring about this enormous crime is proof that the global media is in the hands of the perpetrators." And I said, they called them Zionists or neocons today. They hate Americans of all colors today, especially whites.
Yes. Amen. All right, Clay, we're here to give the warning. We're here to tell the truth, which you're not going to get from the mainstream media. And one thing is for sure, those who have tended to dismiss what we've been saying over the years, ever since we published our book, everything that we said has come true, which proves that we are the reliable source of news and not the mainstream media. Okay?
Yes.
By the way, and it took mainstream media 8 years to finally admit that building number 7 was collapsed into its own footprint. Barbara Walters, I think somewhere in 2008 or 2009, finally admitted what you and I have been, telling people about for previous 8-9 years.
Well, I do admit that perhaps I made a tactical error, not a mistake, but a tactical error by referring to building number 7 and to 9/11 as an exaggerated case of Jewish lightning.
Right. Well, Jade Helm is Jewish lightning. So Jewish heightening, right? Jewish heightening of the Jewish lightning. That's what's going to go on. And if you think the Jews are God's chosen people, you better think again. Let me give a plug for my website, www.anglo-saxonisrael.com, where you can learn all about the Jews and who they really are. And they're the synagogue of Satan. They're not the Israel of the Bible by any shape or form. So, okay, Clay, thanks for having me on again, and keep giving the warning.
I will do that. And matter of fact, I got a page from your site up that I'll share for this next hour. A statement addressed to Christian Israel in America and around the world. A man of sin will be revealed. And I think you could call him Satan Yahoo.
Yeah, right. Very good.
All right,
Clay. Take care. Yahweh bless.
And by the way, you are on this radio station, Veterans Truth Network.
Yeah, I have a show Monday nights.
Monday nights.
Called Master Plan. Yes.
All right, sir.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Clay.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
I will continue. Okay. Thank you, sir.
God bless.
All right. Let's see, we got that. All right. Eli's gone. We still got Blog Talk. We still got Veterans Truth Network up. We will be broadcasting on that from now on, 2 hours every morning, 5 days a week. Make a note of that, will you, Gordon? And we will be revealing the truth about Oh, let's see, Gordon always said he had a lot of friends there in Israel. I believe that. All right, what do we got here? Got this disclaimer about this. Scientists at Concern Labs are trying to determine the exact nature of the most evil particle ever theorized, the god-awful Netanyahu particle, sometimes called the Bibi Bozo particle, named after the Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu, the most evil, malevolent force occupying space-time. When politicians interact with the Netanyahu particle, graft and corruption freely flows, exciting the traitors we call elected representative. Senator Lindsey Graham, having been completely possessed by dark energy, now a complicit minion of Netanyahu, empowers presidential candidates from his presence pure evil. America, now succumbed to the dark force, consumed by Jewish evil, is attracted to political candidates who are resonating in the presence of AIPAC, a dark matter lobby group who uses money like gluons, binding the United States into a willing slave of Israel. The American people, completely overtaken by biblical prophecy, pray to Israel for death. In major Jew infestations like Tel Aviv, the section Oregon trade forces in other areas like New York City, appropriately named for unnatural high concentration of Jews in one town, total financial corruption could lead the world into an economic collapse. As America slides into hell, the United States Congress gives the destroy Netanyahu full emotional support because evil resonates with evil. And Bibi Netanyahu energizes the United States Congress as he plots a total destruction of America. How many standing ovations did he get talking to our Congress and hyping the state of Israel? In certain areas where Jews are of high concentration, a black hole of negative energy and corruption starts to consume all surrounding life. Some of these Jew-infested areas you hear about every day on the JewTube, like New York City and Tel Aviv, where Jewish evil and corruption thrives. A Jew was not created as a means for some other purpose. He himself is the purpose, since the substance of all divine emanations was created only to serve the Jews. Yeah. Now, I got a few minutes left here. Let me finish this statement, and this statement comes from the Rebel of Oz. I've got it linked up on my side. You need to return this. This is somewhat a tongue-in-cheek. Scientists at Concern have discovered that the Jeevil particles all have the same spin toward negativity. All Jeevil particles spin the same direction and have created a potential force field in Jewish-infested areas and are taking America into pure Talmudic hell of Torah Mims. Spin of the Jew evil particles all goes the same way, straight to hell. Many Jews and Christians celebrate the destroyer particle, Bibi Netanyahu, and wish to make his birthday a world holiday. Pastor John Hagee issued a press release urging the world to pray for Israel and the Prime Minister, and he issued his gravest of warnings. If America turns its back on Israel, then God Almighty would strike America down like Sodom and Gomorrah. Hell's Bells, October 21st, 1949. Netanyahu was born unto earth. Scientists and other humanitarians fear the creation of the black hole called Israel by colliding with the BB boson particle with the Talmud field of evil, a collision that could lead to a field of evil that consumes the entire earth and wipes out the human species. Christians protested the research into the anti-God particle, saying that the Creator God would punish humanity for exposing his true evil nature. Evil resonates with evil. Netanyahu energizes the United States Congress as Israel destroys the nation from within. On March 3rd, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is greeted by members of Congress as he arrives to speak during a joint meeting of the United States Congress and the House chambers at the U.S. Capitol, March 3rd, 2015, in Washington, D.C. The mysterious and negative Jew particles, Jevels, often have orbiting sycophant particles. Scientists are unable to explain how particles with negative fields attract until the discovery of the BB boson field. Scientists now understand that the Netanyahu particle interacts with all other particles in some way. Some particles flow freely if aligned with the Satan field. They are the God particles, and all other particles get their values from us, said Rabbi Ovadia Yosef. Rabbi Yosef issued his own press release upon the discovery of the Jew evil particle. We Jews are the gods of this universe. We occupy all space in your mind. We are your masters, and all other races are born to serve. Jews and Gentiles derive their values from us. The rabbi says you're made of evil. A non-Jewish soul comes from 3 satanic spheres, while the Jewish soul stems from holiness. My ass. Hang on.
Hello, friends. This is RJ, the Mighty Phoenix. Friends, if you're a business owner and need capital to sustain or accentuate your business, and if you've been in business for 2 years or more, and your credit scores are low as 500, I can help you. Credit scores don't pay back with money that you borrow. Credit scores are only weapons being used against you in the war on small business. You pay back money that you borrow with business monies earned. So if you have 6 recent bank statements and your business is active, and as I said, you've been in business for over 2 years, I can get you money within 8 business days. Contact me at R as in Russell, J as in James, P as in Peter, P as in Peter again, A as in Arthur, P as in Peter again, A as in author, at yahoo.com. That's RJPTATA at yahoo.com. And if you're not in business and you need to earn extra cash and you don't want to go out and work for someone who's going to take advantage of you, or you don't want to spend the money to gas and get paid minimum wage, you can work with me, not for me, and earn big commissions. And all you need to do is place ads on the computer, on the internet, on Craigslist, on Backpage, on other sites, in the financial section. Only 15 minutes a day. Again, contact me at rjptata@yahoo.com. Leave your cell phone number. I'll get back to you within 24 hours. And we'll discuss the issue. I can help you. Again, rjptata@yahoo.com. Have a great day, folks.
Today, we're all going to learn a new term. It's only 2 words. Now listen closely. Can all of you say constructive fraud? Constructive fraud!
Did you ever get the feeling that you're staring at the ceiling?
He took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America.
And the present takes it till they find us in a grave somewhere.
By some, he's been called controversial.
But we never seem to get too far. Well, if you think you're being taken, then you're ready to awaken to the truth of what we really are.
Now, keep in mind that some of my guests have been approached by Homeland Security or FBI saying, why are you going on the Clay Douglas show?
My message to those guys, if they're listening this morning, is go get a cup of coffee. Maybe you'll learn something.
We both took the same oath, to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I don't recall there being an expiration date on that.
And as long as we stay passive, we'll succumb.
He is the free American, Clay Douglas.
Well, the naked truth and fact is we're all stopped to pay our taxes, and that is why the banksters keep us down.
Catch the free American weekdays at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern.
Learn in public school and did our fathers all of history, all fighting night for liberty, so we could play the tyrant's fool.
For the podcast and more details, visit www.freeamerican.com or catch the podcast by phone by calling 832-999-8621.
Indentured servitude or slave, overburdened and bewildered feudal.
All right, we're back here, and I think that we need to follow Eli's statement from his website, The Identity Challenge. Statement addressed to Christian Israel in America and around the world. To all Christians who love the truth and who love Jesus Christ, this message is for you. The Ecclesiastical Council for the Restoration of Covenant Israel is issuing this challenge to all those Bible believers who have been taught that the Jews are God's people. The ECRCI takes the position that this teaching is a historical lie. We also know that the rabbis of Judaism, although they have been preaching this doctrine for 2,000 years, also know it is a lie. So who is the Antichrist? Children describing the return of Christ, the book of the Thessalonians 2, chapter 2, tells us, "Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition." Verse number 3. Matthew 24:14 tells us, "And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come." We have established 4 conditions, according to Paul and Matthew, which must obtain before the judgment and second coming. These conditions are: there will be a falling away first. This is the prophecy of the great apostasy, given the current denials of the 10 Commandments, the acceptance of homosexuality, the denial of the divine divinity of Christ, the morals of erosion, the decadence of entertainment, etc., etc. Is there any doubt that the whole world, Christianity included, has fallen away from the faith? Number 2, the man of sin, the son of perdition, will be revealed. This one is not so obvious to most Christians, but this paper will reveal his identity as Paul has prophesied. And number 3, the gospel of the kingdom has been preached throughout the entire world, even in countries you've never heard of and in language you do not understand, over 400 in all. And 4, there will be deception involved. John 1:22 tells us, "Who is a liar but he who denieth that Jesus is the Christ? He is the Antichrist that denieth the Father and Son." John 4:3 amplifies this point. "And every spirit that confesseth not that Jesus Christ is come in the flesh is not of God, and that this is the spirit of Antichrist, whereof you have heard that it should come, and even now it's already in the world." We have more scriptural propositions that can only lead to one conclusion. He who denies Jesus Christ is a liar. The Antichrist is anyone, John 1:2-18, tells us that there are many Antichrists, not just one, who denies both the Father and the Son. Those who do not confess Jesus as God come into the flesh possess the spirit of the Antichrist. The Antichrist is already in the world, as John wrote this letter. Children of Christ, is it not obvious who these people are? Is it not obvious what religion it is that has denied both the Father and the Son? For 2,000 years, the Jews have denied that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Still, they deny it today. All of the anti-Gibson rhetoric about the movie The Passion of Christ has come from only one group of people, the Jews and their accomplices. They hate Jesus Christ. They hate the New Testament, which is the doctrine of Jesus Christ. But you say that you've been taught that Jesus was a Jew? Please show me where the scriptures say he was a Jew. This is just another Pharisaic lie that the rabbis tell in order to deceive you. The scriptures tell us that the man of sin will deceive all except the elect in this essence. This means the whole world except for those few who were not fooled. If Jesus Christ was a Jew, then why does the scripture tell us the following? After these things, Jesus walked in Galilee, for he would not walk in Jewry, for the Jews sought to kill him. John 7:1. To the Pharisees, the priest who invented the religion called Judaism, Jesus said, "Ye are from beneath, I am from above. Ye are of this world, I am not of this world." John 8:23. "I know that ye are Abraham's seed, but ye seek to kill me, because my word hath no place in you." John 8:37. "Ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father will ye do," said John 8:44. Now, unfortunately, for all those Christians, pseudo-Christians, who believe the Jews are God's chosen race, they have been fooled, because the Jews are neither Semites, nor are they Hebrews, nor are they of the tribe of Judah. This deceived group includes all fundamentalists, all Christian Zionists, and all Judeo-Christians. They have all been deceived, and non-Christians have also believed this lie, because they accept the lie simply because it has been repeated so often that it cannot be challenged until now. The proof that the Jews are not of Judah is contained in the book of Revelation. It's also contained in the first Free American magazine, which you can get for free up on the freeamerican.com. Read the words of Jewish historian Benjamin Friedman. I may share that with you if I've got time. "I know the blasphemy of them that say they are Jews, but are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan." Revelations 2:9. And Revelations 3:9 said, "Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, who say they are Jews, but are not, but do lie. I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and know that I have loved thee." Revelations 3:9. Jesus Christ is addressing his faithful followers. These followers cannot possibly be Jews, because the Jews have always denied him. Jesus is saying that he will eventually make these liars come and worship at the feet of the Christians who are true to him. In both cases of this translation from the King James Version, the Greek word which is translated as Jews is, in Strong's Concordance, the word Loudios, Loudios, meaning belonging to the tribe of Judah. And the word Iodius means the posterity of Judah. Interesting, there is a related word, word number 2451, Ludicus, Loudaikos, which is translated as resembling a Judean Jewish. To resemble someone is not the same as being someone. One who resembles can easily impersonate the real thing, since we must always distinguish between the real thing and something which resembles the real thing. We must have different words for these objects. Unfortunately, the word Jews has been used for both groups. So the accurate translation of Revelations 2:9 is this: "I know the blasphemy of them who say they are Judahites, but are not, but are the synagogue of Satan." The Jews who in reality, Ludicus, not Ludios, imposters, not for real, have been pretending to be Israelites since the Jewish dispersion of 70 AD. Here we see the beginning of the great deception that the religion of Judaism has performed for the last 2,000 years of history. And you want to know more about that? For $10 you can get the book that Eli James and I wrote called Mystery Babylon, that brings you from 2,000 years right into the future. The Judaism was not practiced by the Israelites. It was only practiced by the followers of the scribes and the Pharisees were not Lodos, Judea. They were rather Laodicos, only the resemblance of Judas. But in fact, the religion called Judaism has never been practiced by the house of Israel, because the house of Israel was already scattered from the Assyrian captivity starting in 745 BC into the wilderness of Europe and Asia Minor. The only exception to this rule when non-Jews convert to Judaism. Note well that the Jews declare descent through the mother. In contradistinction, the Old Testament and New Testament declare descent only through the Father. Read Matthew chapter 1 and Luke chapter 3 if you doubt this. Jesus was the house of David. The Old Testament prophesied on numerous occasions the coming of the Messiah. Jesus Christ fulfilled over 100 prophecies that prove he is the Messiah. Yet the Pharisees sought to kill him and rejected him. Their followers still reject him today. Jesus was not a Jew by religion because he did not practice their religion, which, by the way, is not the religion of Moses. Judaism is the religion of the scribes and Pharisees. The Pharisees, seeing an opportunity to kill Jesus and claim his inheritance for the kingdom for themselves, did all in their power to eliminate him from the scene. In the parable of the traitorous husbandman, Jesus, and that's Matthew 33 and 40, if you got your Bible there with you, Jesus tells them that they are the same traitors who say of Jesus, "This is the heir. Come, let us kill him and seize his inheritance." Contrary to the prevailing view that Jesus was a Jew, virtually every page in the New Testament contained vehement denunciations of their religion, which Jesus calls the traditions of the elders, Matthew 12:2-3-6. He also denounces their religion as not of God, but of the tradition of men, Mark 7:3, 5, 8, 9, 13, and column 2:8. The truth is that Jesus was the antithesis of Judaism, because they taught not the law of the Old Testament, but their own tradition, which was not of God. These traditions over time were written down and today are known as the Babylonian Talmud. The Babylonian Talmud has always been the main doctrine of the Jews, never the Torah of the Old Testament. Contrary to the prevailing view that Jesus was a Jew, virtually every page of the New Testament contains vehement denunciations. Read chapter 23 of Matthew to get a taste of Jesus Christ through denunciation of them and their religion of lies. It must be understood that the rabbis of Judaism have always publicly maintained the fiction that the Talmud and Mosaic law are the same. This fiction has been deceptively promoted throughout to the world, but what they really believe and teach in their rabbinical schools is the Talmud. The importance of this fact will become very clear. Thessalonians 2:14 and 15 tells us, "For ye also have suffered like things of your own countrymen, even though they have of the Jews, who both killed the Lord Jesus and their own prophets, and have persecuted us. They please not God, but are contrary to all men." The rabbis teach their subjects that the following prophecy applies to Jews and Jews only. "And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curse thee, and in thee shall all the nations of the world be blessed." That's Genesis 12:3. This prophecy is spoken directly to and about Abraham, not the Jews. Now, this prophecy cannot possibly pertain to the Jews, because They have been a curse wherever they've gone. Every single nation that has blessed them by allowing them in has lived to regret it or has been destroyed by them. In the Middle Ages, the Jews were expelled from every European nation for their practice of usury, foreclosure, and false conversion to Christianity. Today, America has blessed them with entry into our nation, and America has blessed them with repeated donations of money, arms, and even goodwill. What has America earned for this blessing? The curses of the entire world. The world now hates America because of our unwavering support of the rogue nation, the Israeli state. It's not even a nation. What kind of nation is it that would go bankrupt without the donations and tributes of other nations? The Jews themselves confirm indirectly the fact that they are not the people of the blessing, because they freely admit everywhere we go we are persecuted. Everywhere we go, the dark specter of anti-Semitism follows us. The question is, does it follow them, or do they bring it with them? It is a historical fact that every nation that they have dwelt, they have always agitated for special privileges for themselves at the expense of the native population. Two modern examples of this fact. Without the citizens being aware, are building Holocaust museums at taxpayer expense and the passing of laws against denying the Holocaust. These are examples of how the Jews manipulate societies which have blessed them with a welcome end. Contrary to what Genesis 12:3 states, the Jews have always returned the blessing with a curse by abusing the hospitality of the host nations. This is proof that the prophecy does not apply to them. The fact is, the Jews, rabbis, Zionists have never had a nation of their own, so how can they be the fulfillment of this prophecy? And thou shalt be a father of many nations, Genesis 17:4. What nations have the Jews founded? Only one. The false and deceptive Israeli state, which is in reality the abomination of desolation and the border of wickedness. It was founded by Jewish money. It survives only because the Jews, as an international entity, use their money, power, and influence to deceive the rest of the world into believing the lie that they are the children of Israel. The Jewish author Bernard J. Bamberger points out in his book, The Story of Judaism, that with the fall of the temple, the power of the priest and hence the Sadducean party practically disappeared. Phariseeism was no longer a sect, but the Judaism of the overwhelming majority. There is a subtle deception here. Bamberger would lead us to believe that the Pharisees superseded the Sadducees, but Scripture tells us repeatedly that the Pharisees who sought most fervently to discredit and kill Jesus. It was the Pharisees who sought most fervently to discredit and kill Jesus. It was the Pharisee who agitated for the death of Christ, and their success demonstrates their power even against Pilate, who thought Christ innocent and washed his hands of the crucifixion. Read your Bible, Christians. Find out for yourself what your apostate clergymen, the John Hagees out there, have been withholding from you. If you are still unconvinced that Judaism and the Mosaic Law are not the same, here's a few more Jewish Talmudic experts commenting on their own religion. Judaism is not the religion of the Bible, said Rabbi Ben Zion Boxter in his book Judaism and the Christian Predicament, page 59. You will notice that a great difference exists between the Jewish and Christian religions. There is no such thing as a Judeo-Christian religion, said Rabbi Magi, National Jewish Information Service, August 21st, 1961. What have I told you, folks? What have I told you? If you call yourself a Judeo-Christian, You might as well call yourself a satanic Christian. Okay. You will notice, said Rabbi Magi, National Jewish Information Service, that Judaism is specifically the religion of a Jewish community living among Gentile peoples and is to be distinguished from the religion of ancient Israel. Well, that's from the Standard Encyclopedia, Volume 14. And finally, from Scripture, beware the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy, Luke 12:1. Can there be any doubt as to whom the Gospels refer when they talk about the religion of the Pharisees and their lies and hypocrisy, their treachery? From the above, we can categorically that the popularly promoted Jewish myth that Christianity emerged from Judaism is a lie, and the rabbis know it's a lie. The reality is that Christianity is the logical continuation of the Old Testament. Judaism is, for all intents and purposes, the denial of the Old Testament, because the Talmud distorts its meaning for the predevious purposes of the rabbis, and the Gospels clearly show that Christianity and Judaism diverge on almost every major creed. Indeed, as Rabbi Magi said, the two have nothing in common. The essence of Judaism is the denial of Christ and God, according to 2 John 2:22. He is Antichrist that denies the Father and the Son. The essence of Christianity is the acceptance of Christ and God. One is the religion of truth, the other is the religion of lies. Of the deceived people in the end times, which we may be approaching with Jade Helm, John 16:1 tells us, Yea, the time cometh that whosoever killeth you will think that he does God's service. Jesus is talking to his followers, the undeceived church. Those who have been deceived will participate with the Antichrist in killing the innocents. How many Palestinian Christians have been killed by the Zionists while Christian fundamentalists applaud in the name of Jesus Christ? How many Palestinians have been butchered by the Zionist henchmen of the false state of Israel just for being non-Jews? What did these innocent Palestinians ever do to the Jews that they deserve this occupation, oppression, genocide at the hands of the Zionists? Christian Zionists have participated in this gross crime because they've been deceived by the Antichrist Zionist International into believing this is all God's will. Mark 13:14. But when ye shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing where it ought not, let him that readeth understand, and let them that be in Judea flee to the mountains. This verse was fulfilled in 70 A.D., when the non-Jewish inhabitants of Jerusalem were allowed to escape their execution. But the followers of the Pharisees were adamant in their rebellion, and they suffered annihilation in their own dispersion, a dispersion that has nothing to do with the much earlier dispersion of the lost 10 tribes of Israel in 745 BC. But Mark 13:14 is due to be filled again because the synagogue of Satan is once more standing in the holy place. They recaptured Jerusalem, thus fulfilling the prophecy of Isaac to his son Esau, who was Jacob's rebellious brother. And by thy sword thou shalt thou live, and serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou hast the dominion, but thou shalt break his yoke from off my neck. Genesis 27:70. And Esau hated Jacob, verse 41, because Jacob had received the far greater blessing. What was that blessing? Let the people serve thee, and the nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's son bow down to thee. Cursed be everyone that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesseth thee. That's Genesis 27:9. It's a fact that the descendants of Jacob Israel are none other than the Anglo-Saxon, Caucasian, and Celtic people. These are the people as the nations of Western civilization, Europe, America, Canada, Australia, and others, who brought civilization to the world. As a result of the Christianization of these Anglo-Saxons, the world has been blessed by our spreading of the gospel, by our promotion of liberty, and by our technological achievements. The world has been blessed because of these people who are the descendants of Abraham and Jacob, and are the heirs of the blessing given to them. So if the Jews are not the people of the blessing, who are they? In Deuteronomy 28:43 and 44, God tells us, Jacob, Israel, that we will be cursed if we do not obey his law. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. Throughout history, which ethnic group has always been the world's leading money lenders? Today, the money lenders have taken over society. Esau, Jacob's rebellious brother, founded the nation of Edom. Herod the Great, an Idumean, was an Edomite who assumed control of the nation of Judea by deception. He was a stranger who had taken over the leadership of the house of Judah, and he tried to kill Jesus while yet a baby. Isaiah 34:5 tells us about the Idumeans and the Edomites. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumeus, and upon the people of my curse to judgment. These are the rebellious ones who refuse to accept Jesus Christ. Today, Herod's relatives, the Jews of Edom, have risen up above Israel very high. They lend to us, and we do not lend to them. They have as advisor to our Christian leaders, and as money changers, money lenders to our unsuspecting people, led us down the path to perdition. The money lenders have again taken control of the temple, and the average Christian has no idea that these Edomites are not really Israelites, and since their invasion of Palestine is based upon their claim of being Israel, their occupation is fraudulent. The synagogue of Satan is committing genocide in the name of Israel. In fact, the vast majorities of Jews are not even Semitites, but by their own admission, 95% of the Jews are of the tribe of Ashkenaz, also known as Khazars, a Turco-Mongolian tribe that lived in the steppes of the West and Central Europe. These non-Semitic people converted to Judaism by command of their king, Joseph, in 740 A.D. They are not of the holy seed. It is these non-Semitic Jews who pretend to be Israel, deceiving the whole world. Revelation 12:9, and leading us into one conflict after another, while Christians and Muslims die and Jewish merchants and bankers reap the profits. And these Christ-denying Edomites, God says, was not Esau, Jacob's brother. Saith the Lord, yet I loved Jacob, and I hated Esau, and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Malachi 1, 2, and 3. Lest ye think the New Testament tells a different story. Romans 9:13 tells us, as it is written, Jacob I have loved, but Esau I have hated. Though Esau was the son of Abraham through Isaac, none of the Edomites are Israelites, because they are not descended through Jacob. Why does God hate Esau? Esau, that's E-S-A-U, Esau, despise his birthright. Genesis 25 through 34. Esau refused to take for himself a Hebrew wife. He took Canaanites and Ishmaelites to wife, but not a Hebrew. In other words, he despised his own race. To make sure that Jacob did not commit the same sin, Isaac told Jacob, thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. In Genesis 28:1, Isaac repeats this command at Genesis 28:6, and Jacob obeyed his father, 28:7. Esau despised his Adamic heritage, and therefore he stands condemned as a traitor. Today, all Jews, as either descendants of Edom or as descendants of the Ashkenazites, take no part in the blessings of Jacob Israel, because they are not Israelites. In order to hide his crime, Esau, Jewry, pretends to be Jacob, the lost tribes of Israel. By this deception, he hopes to take the inheritance away from Jacob, the true heir of Abraham and Isaac, the brother that he hates. These same Edomites and Ashkenazis have persecuted Christians throughout history, especially with their creation of communism. Note well, all you Christian conservatives, how you have been deceived. In all Bolshevist institutions, the heads are Jews. They are contemptuous of everyone, which excites the people against them. They look upon Bolshevism as a Jewish affair, said the Canadian Jewish Chronicle, October 8, 1923. The ideals of Bolshevism are at many points consonant with the finest ideals of Judaism, said the Jewish Chronicle, April 4th, 1919. You will say that Marxism is the very antithesis of capitalism, which is equally sacred to us. It is precisely for this reason they are direct opposites to one another, that they put into our hands the two poles of this planet and allow us to be its axis, said Otis Kahn, Jewish financier, quoted in St. Oliver's, Geneva versus Peace. This is important, folks. Pay attention. I have told you what had happened in Russia is happening here. The Russian Revolution and the Great War of 1914 to 1918 are only phases of the supreme mobilization of cosmopolitan powers of money, and this supreme crusade of gold against God and the cross is nothing more or less than the furious aspiration of the Jew for domination of our world. For Bolshevism is nothing but a Talmudic upheaval. Eustace Mullins, History of the Jews, page 83. Eustace Mullins was a friend. Eustace Mullins spoke at one of my events. I only did about 3. I was trying to bring Eustace out to be with me so I could help protect him in Bingham, New Mexico. And then he He died. As did my friend V.K. Durham a few months ago. They got her into a hospital and they killed her. They killed Eustace Mullins. And even you need to read my book, Mystery Babylon. Eli James co-authored that with me. It's important, folks. You need to know what's going on here. Let me see what this is. Alright. Right side news now following me. Lenin, Marx, Engels, Trotsky, Parvis, Moses Hess, Rothschild, Schiff, Bernard Baruch, Ben Gurion, Sharon, Rosa Luxemburg, Bella Kun, Begin, Shammer, Theodore Herzl, Wolfowitz, and Kissinger. A rogues gallery, if there ever was one, and all members of the Jewish Hall of Infamy, murderers and deceivers that the Jewish people are taught by their rabbis to honor. So you still think that the Jews are God's chosen people? The Jews have managed to hide from most Christians the fact that communism is a Jewish institution. Okay, no, we don't do that. Yeah, we got that back. Back on Truth Radio and Crusade. Let me know how the sound is on Truth Radio. You need to support Truth Radio. You need to support Crusade. They're one of the few stations, and now we've got Veterans Truth that are allowing us to tell you the truth. Let me repeat this. The Jews have managed to hide from most Christians the fact that communism is a Jewish institution. Its leaders have always been Jews, and their hatred of Christianity has always been a known fact. Since the day the Jews were expelled from Palestine by the Roman army in 70 A.D., the Jews have plotted and schemed their revenge against Christ and Christianity. And since Christianity is the religion of the Anglo-Saxon people, the lost tribes of Israel, it is the same old hatred and disobedient brother Esau for his obedient brother Jacob. We've got, and let's see. Who's the man of sin? There is no doubt that the man of sin, referred to in the Scriptures, is none other than the Talmudic rabbi himself, the one who falsely teaches that he is a Hebrew, Shemite, Israelite, or Judahite, and who falsely claims the Old Testament as his heritage. We have seen from this brief survey they are in fact the world's greatest liars and hypocrites, practicing a religion of pretense, a deception, and intrigue. It's only because Christians are guileless and long-suffering, and the rabbis know this very well, that they have not opened their eyes to see the obvious truth. Judaism is a religion of lies. They excuse all others of evil, while they are the most guilty, and Satan himself shall appear as an angel of light. 2 Corinthians 11:14. The next time you watch a video of the Talmudic rabbis bobbing their heads at the Wailing Wall, making a show of their piety. Remember these words of Jesus Christ. And when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as hypocrites. For they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets, that they shall be seen by men. Matthew 6:5. And finally, beware of these false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Look at their, and this is Matthew 7:15 and 16, look at their fruits in Palestine and the economic devastation they have caused in all nations with their money lending. The Christian flock has not yet learned how to discern the hypocrite from the true shepherd. We sincerely hope that all Christians wake up to the nature of the historical deception that has taken place in the name of Israel. The hour is late. Help us awaken our fellow Christians. You can do that by letting people listen to this show, sharing this. Get the book Mystery Babylon. Costs you $10 for a PDF. You can share it with as many people as you want. This Ecclesiastical Council for the Restoration of the Covenant Israel issued this challenge to anyone in the world who thinks that the information in this tract that you've just listened to can be refuted. We call this the Identity Challenge. Because we know that it is Anglo-Saxon, Caucasian, and Celtic peoples who are the true and only descendants of the house of Israel. We know that the vast majority of rabbis and Christian pastors have taught us the lie that the Jews are Israel, some knowingly, some unknowingly. We also know that they be quite reluctant to read this tract once it's handed to them. In fact, we've been trying to get Christian ministers to respond to our scriptural knowledge for many years, but we've been rebuffed with silence. We know that our stand cannot be refuted. They know it too. How long will you be deceived by them? Since they have treated us with the stone wall of signs, we've decided to go directly to the people, the Christian laity, and let you decide for yourselves. Pray for your pastors so they may awaken to the truth. Read all 4 Gospels for yourself and see how your priesthood has failed to inform you of the strife between Jesus and the rabbis. It is a fact, a major theme of the New Testament, but the priests of Orthodox Christianity have ignored this theme, while Christians are plied with Jewish fables in order to support the diabolical state of Israel. We ask all people of the Christian churches to circulate this information among your brethren so they may be alerted to the truth of the Scripture and the falseness of rabbinical Judaism. You can print this tract, copy it, and give it to your Christian friends so they might know the truth of this ongoing deception, which is the fulfillment of Revelation 12. And the great dragon shall cast out the old serpent called the devil, and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. When a few of you have convinced yourself that your pastor should address our challenge, we encourage you to take it to him as a group, hand it to him, and ask, can you refute this analysis of the Scripture? And you can find this tract at Anglo-Saxon-Israel.com. For lo, to thine enemies make atonement, and they shall hate thee. And they that hate thee have lifted up their head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consult against thy hidden ones. Psalms 83, 3 and 4. And Esau hated Jacob. Genesis 27:41. Herod was an Edomite, not a Judahite. He was an Idumean, not an Israelite. Edom is in Jewry, says the Jewish Encyclopedia of 1925, Volume 5, page 41. In Isaac's sons, the Anglo-Saxons, shall thy seed be called. Genesis 21 and 12. May the God of Israel protect you and your family on the judgment day. And I'm putting this right now on my site. It'll be up there in a moment. Now, folks, I need your help. I need your help. I need you to go to freeamerican.com and make a donation. Hopefully, you will do that. Of course, we've got some of these Edomites on the up on the chat room, pretending to be a fan of the show. My ass. We'll put that up there. I don't hide. I don't hide. I tell you the truth. I am pretty much always there. You can reach me. You can get me by telephone. And what did we do here? The Jewish Voice for Peace says to one of my guests, you have been a repeat guest of white supremacist Clay Douglas on his hate radio show. The Free American. Clay Douglas is concerned primarily with the survival of the white race, Christianity, Anglo-Saxon Christianity, and sees the malign Jewish influence everywhere. It is everywhere. Look at your newspapers, look at your media, all of them owned. You're troubling, they go on to say, addressing Allison Weir, your troubling associations with the choices further include giving interviews to a range of far-right outlets, including the American Free Press, which the Southern Poverty Law Center has identified as a hate group, and the anti-gay, anti-Jewish pastor Mark Dankoff. One of your articles appeared in an anthology that was promoted by the infamous Holocaust denial organization, the Institute for Historical Review. We show no evidence that you've disavowed any of these outlets or institutions. Our movement, here's a big lie, must be built on a foundation of love, justice, and equality for all people. It should not and cannot win by fueling or endorsing any form of hate, whether against people of color, gays, Jews, Muslims, or anyone else. It is the mainstream press, Jewish-controlled, that try to fuel the hate of the Muslims while they promote Jews and gays. At Jewish Voice for Peace, we are particularly sensitive to the long history of anti-Jewish suppression, as well as the ways that Palestinian liberation work is frequently tarred with false charges of anti-Semitism, just as we call out the hateful associations of those who seek to perpetuate injustice against Palestinians. As a movement, we must also hold the line against those who promote the false notion that Palestinian liberation can be won at the expense of others. If anti-Semitism is best understood as Goyim's reaction to Jewish bad behavior, Jewish Voice for Peace shouldn't be surprised by the tidal wave of resentment it provokes among peace lovers and dissident voices across the political spectrum. The Jewish organization has been behaving badly for some time. It is engaged in an orchestrated and systematic attempt to derail the Palestinian discourse. If this were not enough, if this were not enough, JVP has been chasing, smearing, and harassing the most dedicated voices and activists for the solidarity movement. People such as Greta Berta and George Calloway. Ken O'Keefe, yours truly, Gilad Osman, and many others. Allison Weir, the legendary activist and founder of American News, has become another victim of their disgraceful tribal campaign. Harem excommunication is deeply rooted in Jewish culture. The great philosopher Baruch Spinoza is subject to harem. The story of Uriel da Costa is a devastating chronicle of rabbinical collective vindictiveness. Seemingly the good and liberal Jews at JVP have extended the harem culture far beyond the ghetto wars. Our Jewish allies, as they have occasionally labeled themselves, are now tempted to excommunicate Gentiles. They must be convinced that they have succeeded in reducing the Palestinian solidarity movement to internal Jewish affair. What was Weir's crime exactly? Guilt by association. The elders at the anti-Zion at JVP accused Weir of being interviewed by people whom the ultra-Zionist Southern Poverty Law Centers tags as hate figures and white supremacy, yet they do not accuse Weir herself of racism or bigotry. Weir reacted to JVC's accusation by stating her goal is to reach every single person possible with the essential facts to counter the misinformation so often being disseminated to Americans. Weir also tried to explain to the Jews in the movement that being invited on a radio show doesn't imply an endorsement of the host's views. Otherwise, every person interviewed by Fox News might be tagged a neocon, which would be absolutely absurd. JVP's harem announcement declares our movement must be built on a foundation of love and justice and equality for all people. That's a beautiful sentiment, but unfortunately it contradicts the purpose of the letter, which states in precise terms who should be excluded from love and justice and equality. It is astonishing that anti-Zionists who lead JVP practice segregation and exceptionalism on a daily basis. Sometimes I wonder what it is about Israel or Zionism that they oppose. Wilkinson's rant reveals a deep, morbid fear of whiteness that resembled Bennett and Lieberman's resentment towards Arabs and Muslims. For years, I've argued that the continuum between Zionism and so-called Jewish well, that's Gilad Osman trying to speak up for me. I'm Clay Douglas, FreeAmerican.com, FreeAmerican69 on YouTube and on Facebook. God bless you all. Stay in the fight. Don't let these real callers and transmitters of hate do this to you. God bless you. Goodbye.
Yeah.